You are standing in waist-deep water off a familiar beach. Somewhere beyond the sandbar, a great white shark is aware of you. It can feel the electrical pulse of your heartbeat through the water. It can hear the low-frequency thud of your legs kicking. It has every physical tool required to end your life in under 4 seconds. And it has used those tools on animals far faster and far better defended than you. And in the overwhelming majority of cases, here is what that shark will do next. Nothing. It will circle once, maybe twice, and it will leave. Even in the rare event that it commits, even when jaws capable of removing 100 pounds of flesh in a single pass actually close on a human body, the pattern repeats itself with strange consistency. One bite, a pause, and then the shark lets go and disappears. Scientists who study shark attacks have a quiet phrase for this: bite and release. The most feared predator in the ocean routinely starts the kill and then, for reasons that took researchers decades to untangle, refuses to finish it. That refusal is one of the most misunderstood behaviors in the natural world, and the explanation says as much about you, your body, and what you are actually made of as it does about the shark. So, the question this whole story hangs on is simple. Why does an animal built for killing take one bite of a human and walk away? If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Start with the story you already believe, because almost everyone believes it. The shark, in the popular imagination, is a machine, an eating machine, a mindless torpedo of teeth, a creature so primitive that hunger is its entire personality. That image did not appear from nowhere. In 1975, Jaws put it on every screen in America, and Peter Benchley, the man who wrote the novel, spent the last decades of his life publicly apologizing for it, campaigning for shark conservation after watching what his fictional monster did to the reputation of the real animal. But the myth stuck, because part of it is true. Sharks really are extraordinary killers. Off Seal Island in False Bay, South Africa, the shark biologist R. Aidan Martin spent years documenting great whites hunting Cape fur seals, and what he recorded is genuinely frightening. The sharks patrol deep, in low light, in the hour around dawn. They select a young seal swimming alone at the surface, accelerate from 15 or 20 meters below, and hit it so hard that a 2,000-pound fish clears the water entirely. Martin and his colleagues logged hundreds of these predatory breaches over multiple seasons, and the timing told its own story. In the dim light of early morning, when the shark could see the seal, but the seal could not see the shark, roughly half of all attacks ended in a kill. As the sun climbed and the advantage of darkness disappeared, the sharks mostly stopped hunting altogether. They were not attacking whenever hunger struck. They were attacking when the odds favored them, and only then. When a white shark decides a seal is food under the right conditions, the seal usually finds out at the moment of impact, and the strike is often fatal on contact. That is the machine you were promised. Precise, ambush-based, overwhelming. Which is exactly why the human data makes no sense at first glance. Because if that machine ever aimed itself at us with real intent, the outcome would not be in doubt. A Cape fur seal can swim at over 20 kilometers per hour, corner like a fighter jet, and fight back with claws and a bite of its own. You are a slow, soft, nearsighted land mammal, splashing at the surface in a posture that broadcasts distress. Against the predator that routinely wins against seals, you should lose every single time. And yet you almost never do. Something is wrong with the eating machine story, and the numbers prove it. The numbers live in Gainesville, Florida, in a database called the International Shark Attack File, maintained at the Florida Museum of Natural History and directed today by the biologist Gavin Naylor. The file has tracked and investigated shark bites globally for decades, sorting verified incidents from rumor, and the totals are almost absurdly small. In a typical year, across every ocean on Earth, the file confirms somewhere between 60 and 80 unprovoked shark bites, out of hundreds of millions of people entering the water. Fatalities usually land in the single digits. In 2023, the file confirmed 69 unprovoked bites worldwide and 10 deaths. For comparison, cows kill more people than that in the United States alone. Dogs kill roughly 25,000 people a year worldwide. Mosquitoes kill hundreds of thousands. Statistically, the drive to the beach is the most dangerous part of your day in the water. But the raw totals are not even the interesting part. The interesting part is how the file classifies the incidents themselves. The largest category by far is what researchers call hit and run, a single fast strike, usually in murky surf, usually on a swimmer's leg or a surfer's foot, over before the victim understands what happened. The shark makes contact once and is gone. These incidents cluster in exactly the conditions where identification is hardest: churned-up surf zones, sediment-clouded river mouths, the low light of dusk and dawn, places where a shark is working with fragments of information and fast-moving shapes. The file recognizes two rarer categories: the bump and bite and the sneak attack, which involve larger sharks and account for most of the serious injuries. But even in those cases, the reports rarely describe anything resembling sustained feeding. Meanwhile, surfers and board sport athletes absorb the clear majority of bites worldwide, around 60% in most years, and that lopsided detail turned out to be a clue rather than a coincidence. The world watched a version of this play out live in July 2015, when the surfer Mick Fanning was attacked during the final of the J-Bay Open in South Africa on international television. A large white shark surfaced behind him, knocked him from his board, dragged his leash, and then, with the most famous surfer on the planet floundering in open water beside it, simply left. Fanning swam away without a scratch. Millions of people saw a white shark with a human at its mercy decide in real time that it was not interested. In 2021, a sensory biologist named Laura Ryan at Macquarie University in Sydney published a study in the Journal of the Royal Society Interface that explained why surfers in particular keep triggering these encounters. Her team built a computational model of white shark vision, which is poor by human standards, likely colorblind and heavily blurred, and then ran footage of seals, swimmers, and surfers paddling on boards, all filmed from below against the bright surface. To a juvenile white shark looking up, the silhouettes were close to indistinguishable. A paddling surfer and a swimming seal produce nearly the same shape and nearly the same motion signal. Here is what that actually means. Many shark bites on humans begin as a genuine mistake. The shark believes it has ambushed a seal. Then its mouth closes, and within a second or two it learns something that changes its behavior completely. You are the wrong animal. But mistaken identity cannot be the whole answer, and this is where the story gets stranger, because the mistake itself should be impossible. Sharks are among the best-equipped sensory animals on the planet. In 1678, an Italian anatomist named Stefano Lorenzini described a network of jelly-filled pores clustered around shark snouts, structures now called the ampullae, of Lorenzini in his honor. 3 centuries later, scientists worked out what those pores actually do. They detect electricity. Living muscle, including your beating heart, leaks a faint electrical field into seawater, and a shark can read that field at close range with a sensitivity measured in billionths of a volt. A great white can hear low-frequency splashing from hundreds of meters away, follow trace chemicals across enormous distances, and feel the pressure waves of a moving body along an organ called the lateral line that runs the length of its flanks. An animal like that should never confuse a lean mammal in a wetsuit with a fat seal. The resolution to that contradiction came from watching what happens in the final second of an attack. Each sense dominates at a different distance, and at the moment of the strike, several of them effectively switch off. Many white sharks roll their eyes backward into their heads for protection as they bite, and other species shield the eye with a nictitating membrane, which means the last instant of the attack is guided by momentum and electrical sense alone, aimed at a target that was selected seconds earlier by blurry vision. The shark commits on the basis of a silhouette. The truth arrives only through the mouth. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. And what the mouth reports is where the biologist Peter Klimley enters the story. In the late 1980s and 1990s, working around the Farallon Islands off San Francisco, Klimley ran a blunt, almost crude experiment. He offered wild white sharks 3 kinds of bait at the surface: seal carcasses, pig carcasses, and sheep carcasses. The sharks bit all 3. They swallowed the seal and the pig, both rich in fat. The sheep, lean and muscular, they bit and rejected, sometimes carrying it a short distance before spitting it out. Klimley built a hypothesis from that pattern, which researchers still debate today. White sharks, he proposed, are fat seekers. Their enormous warm bodies run on energy-dense blubber, and they can evaluate the caloric value of prey in a single bite. The energy math backs him up. In 2013, a team led by Jason Semmons at the University of Tasmania tagged white sharks and calculated their metabolic costs, and the results reframed every meal as a serious financial decision. A large white burns enormous energy, just holding its body warmer than the surrounding sea, and a single rich meal of seal blubber has to fund days or weeks of hunting, swimming, and searching. Prey is not just food. Prey is fuel that must justify the cost of catching it. This is the same reason white sharks off California famously bite sea otters and then abandon them. The biologist M. Tim Tinker and his colleagues have documented hundreds of otter carcasses bearing white shark tooth marks with no tissue removed at all. An otter keeps warm with dense fur instead of blubber, which makes it useless to an animal shopping for fat. Bitten, evaluated, rejected. And a human being, by shark accounting, sits in the same category. You are bone, lean muscle, and water wrapped around a skeleton, carrying nowhere near the fat load of the animals this predator evolved to eat. The first bite is a taste test. You fail it. Now slow down, because underneath the fat hypothesis sits a deeper truth about what that first bite really is, and it changes how you should picture the entire encounter. A shark has no hands. Think about how much of your understanding of any new object arrives through your fingers, and then remove that option from your body entirely. A shark investigating something unfamiliar has exactly one instrument of touch, precise enough to answer questions, and that instrument happens to be lined with serrated teeth. Researchers see the consequences constantly with objects that are obviously not food. Sharks' mouth buoys, cameras, cage bars, kayak hulls, surfboard fins, boat propellers, scientific instruments. Not attacks, inspections. The jaws of a shark are packed with pressure-sensitive nerve endings that can read texture, density, and give in much the way your fingertips can, and sharks demonstrably control how hard they squeeze. The biomechanist Daniel Huber at the University of Tampa has measured shark bite forces, and a large bull shark can close its jaws with well over 1,000 pounds of force, among the strongest bites ever recorded for its body size. Yet many wounds on shark bite victims show something odd: far less force than the animal had available. Surgeons treating survivors have described injuries that look like the shark was holding back, because it was. A grip that would crush a seal's rib cage gets dialed down to something closer to a firm, exploratory hold. Divers who work in cages have watched sharks do the same thing to steel bars, closing their mouths around metal with obvious deliberateness, gauging it, then releasing it undamaged. The underwater equivalent of you picking up an unfamiliar object and turning it over in your palm. When a shark closes its mouth on something new, it is often not trying to eat. It is trying to know. The horror, from the human side, is that a question asked with 300 teeth can still sever an artery, and the shark has no way to ask gently enough for a body as fragile as yours. But the shark's behavior after the bite tells you which encounter you were in. A feeding shark comes back. A curious shark leaves. You might reasonably object that not every shark is a picky white shark, and you would be right. Tiger sharks are famous generalists, willing to swallow sea turtles, seabirds, and an infamous museum's worth of garbage recovered from their stomachs. And bull sharks patrol warm, murky coastlines with a broader menu than almost any predator alive. Those two species, along with the white, account for the bulk of serious attacks on humans. And yet the case files show the same signature even there: one strike, occasionally two, then departure. Whatever mix of curiosity, mistaken identity, and appetite brings any of these species into contact with a person, the encounter almost always ends with the shark making the same choice. And there is one more layer, the one that finally makes the whole pattern click. The shark is not just underwhelmed by you. It is wary of the cost of you. A great white is a solitary hunter with no pack to feed it if it gets hurt. An injured jaw, a damaged eye, a wound taken from a struggling animal can mean weeks of failed hunts. And for a predator running on tight energy margins, that can mean death. Seal Island taught researchers that even against its favorite prey, the white shark is intensely risk-averse. It targets inexperienced young seals over powerful adults. It strikes only with total surprise and abandons hunts the moment surprise is lost. It will hit a seal once, back off, and wait for blood loss to do the dangerous work rather than wrestle an animal that is still strong enough to fight. Photographic surveys of white sharks at aggregation sites regularly find adults carrying scars from seals, from other sharks, from prey that fought back. Physical receipts proving that even successful hunts carry a price. Predators in the wild do not fight fair, because fighting at all is a risk they cannot afford. A lion can limp back to a pride that will share a kill. A wolf has a pack. A white shark that can no longer hunt has nothing, and its behavior shows every sign of being shaped by that brutal arithmetic. So when the test bite comes back with the wrong answer, low fat, strange texture, unknown animal, unknown defenses, the shark runs the only calculation that matters to a creature living on an energy budget. This meal is not worth the risk of finding out what it can do. Every instinct that made the white shark the ocean's most successful large predator for millions of years now argues for the same decision. Let go. Leave. The bite that terrifies you is, from the shark's side, the moment it decides you are not worth it. You survive shark encounters not because sharks are merciful, and not because you got lucky, but because you are, in the only currency the ocean deals in, a bad investment, which leaves you somewhere unexpected. The next time you stand in that waist-deep water, understand what is actually happening in the dark beyond the sandbar. You have spent your whole life being told the ocean contains a monster that wants you. It does not. It contains a cautious, calculating, half-blind investigator running the most sophisticated sensory equipment in the sea, and when that equipment finally gets a clear reading on you, the answer comes back the same way almost every time. Wrong shape. Wrong taste. Wrong animal. Not worth it. The handful of tragedies that do occur each year are real, and nothing in this story erases them. A question asked with a bite can still kill, and the people harmed by that fact deserve more than statistics. But the pattern across the whole planet, across every ocean and every decade of records, points in one direction. Roughly 400 million years of shark evolution built an animal that meets an unknown creature and chooses investigation over slaughter, caution over appetite, retreat over risk. And while you have spent your life fearing them, the ledger between the two species has been running badly in your favor. Sharks kill fewer than a dozen people in an average year. Human fishing fleets kill an estimated 100 million sharks in the same 12 months. A number so unbalanced that marine biologists struggle to make audiences believe it. The animal that inspects before it strikes, that releases what it cannot identify, that walks away from nearly every human it ever meets, is being erased by the species it keeps sparing. There is something almost painful in that asymmetry once you see it clearly. We wrote Jaws about them. They fact-checked us one bite at a time and concluded we were not food. The most feared predator on Earth has been telling us, patiently, in the only language it has, that we were never on the menu. We just never stopped screaming long enough to hear it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.